Good evening and Happy New Year. We're Chris Lee and Blayne Gilmer of Southeastern 14, presented by Stakes. We are here to talk college football. Who knows, maybe even a second of college basketball. That's what the audience wants. We're here certainly to talk about Georgia's win over Ohio State and whatever else you want. Get in the chat, ask us questions here on New Year's night. Blayne, thanks for joining us. Hope you had a very Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year.
Yeah, Happy New Year. Christmas was fantastic. And man, just what a weekend of college football when it comes to those CFP games. Historically, Chris, those games have not been the greatest in the world. There's usually been blowouts in the semifinals, and that was not the case this time around, as TCU and Georgia find themselves squared up in a rematch of a bowl game from the 2016-2017 season in Kirby Smart's first year at Georgia, but a little bit different atmosphere that'll be in this one. But it's going to be a phenomenal scene. But we've got a lot to talk about with those games, and of course, what anybody else wants to talk about. If you're here watching, we already got some people tuning in. Throw your questions, your topics that you want to talk about in the chat, and Chris and I are here to. That's what this is about, right, Chris? We're here to serve the people in the streams.
We are. We are also going to react some to Georgia's win over Ohio State, which we didn't get a chance to discuss last night. Timing on a live stream on New Year's Eve would have not been good, and also might have gotten me kicked out of the house. So we're here tonight. you know how that goes. Let's start with Georgia, Ohio State. Our good buddy Anthony Dasher, who's one of the best people in the sports media business. I can't remember the words that he used, but I think he said it was maybe the most exciting game he'd ever covered or something like that. Dash has been on that beat a long time. He's seen some stuff, but you know what? I don't think he's wrong.
Yeah, no, it was excitement all the way to the very end. And there was a tweet that went out, Chris. It was kind of interesting. Right, that kick was missed basically almost at the exact second that it turned over to midnight at a new year. It was within like 2 seconds when the ball hit the ground. So it was very, very interesting. Wanted to tell real quick, Jane, we see you in here. We're going to get to your question in just a minute, but we're going to react to the game here. Here's the thing, Chris. If you'd have told me before the game that CJ Stroud was going to have all day to throw and that he was going to
run the ball that well.
Yeah, and he was going to run the ball well, and he was going to have 348 passing yards and 4 touchdowns, no interceptions, I would say, man, it's going to be real hard for Georgia to win that game. And you told me, hey, Georgia's going to be down 14 in the fourth quarter. Really tough. But once again, and I tweeted it out, I said, nobody really needs to ever say anything about Stetson Bennett again, because the guy's a legend. I mean, who cares? People get wrapped up in, well, he's not going to do this in the pros and all this kind of stuff. Who cares? If you love college football, Stetson Bennett is like the epitome of what college football is about. Just a player who steps up in the biggest moments, and he's done it time and time again. And Chris, that I don't know about you, but that drive that he put together with 2 minutes and 36 seconds, where they scored too fast. I mean, it was what legendary stuff is made out of.
Well, look, it went beyond that. It was the ball that he put between a couple defenders on the long pass on the touchdown before that. I mean, so much stuff happened in that game. Forgive me if I get the sequence wrong. But that's 2 years in a row where he's not maybe been at his best. I mean, you saw right at halftime, Kirby Smart, he took a beeline to Stetson Bennett.
Yeah.
Out kind of between the hash marks or so, and said something to him. And I think they asked him about it later, and he said something to the effect of, we got to get his head in the right space. I don't think it was that harsh, but he said something along.
I'm sure it was much harsher. I'm sure it was something.
Well, and I'm sure we can't repeat it here, but
I'm sure we could not repeat it on Kirby's known for some colorful language over there. But when it comes down to it, that's what I think this team has kind of responded, and his program has responded to Kirby, is because he's going to keep it real with him, and he's going to let him know, hey, you're not playing up to the standard, and Kirby never changes the standard. In fact, after the game, after one of the best wins in the Georgia program history, he's getting talked to by, I think Holly Rowe was interviewing Kirby Smart, and he's over there saying, well, Stetson Bennett's going to have to play better next week if we're going to beat TCU. Yeah. Like he's immediately jumping into coach mode, not enjoying the win over there at all. But it was very, very interesting to see the dynamic of, okay, here's Ohio State. They've been discounted all month because of that terrible loss that they had to Michigan, where they played bad in the fourth quarter. And then here it comes around again. This time, Ohio State really outplayed Georgia for 3 quarters, and Georgia goes out and wins the fourth quarter 18-3. Stetson Bennett himself has 398 yards and 4 total touchdowns on the day, 3 passing, 1 rushing. And Chris, he's 177 yards away from having 4,000 yards passing this year.
Goodness.
A lot of people want to say that he's 30 years old out here playing against teenagers and stuff. But you got to give it to the guy just being able to fight, stick around. His story's unique. And by the way, now he's going to face a quarterback who's got a story that's pretty unique in itself. Max Duggan wasn't even the starter for TCU this year. Chandler Morris had won that job out of camp, and Max Duggan ends up taking over and ends up, being second in the Heisman race. One thing that TCU probably doesn't like is Stetson Bennett has a pretty good record against Heisman Trophy finalists. He's beat Bryce Young. He's beat CJ Stroud head to head now. So we'll see what happens with TCU. Georgia opens as a 13.5-point favorite. But we'll talk about any of these matchups, whatever you want to talk about. Chris, what stood out for you in that game? Not just, obviously the heroics by Georgia at the end, but were there any moments where you were just like, this, I guess, isn't going how we thought, or what stood out to you from that contest?
Well, yes, there were. And let's be fair to both sides. Ohio State got hit hard with the injury bug, and the Harrison injury, really didn't help matters.
Yeah, no doubt.
But one of I don't know if it was Herb Street or Chris Fowler. I think it was Fowler at one point that said something about Brock Bowers not really being a part of things, which I'd been thinking, and he kind of verbalized it. You had Darnell Washington hurt in that game. Now, Georgia, and this is where I'm going, Georgia has so recruited well that it's just stocked with dudes everywhere. But I think if you had said Brock Bowers was not a bigger part of what they were doing, Ladd McConkey didn't have a good game at all. I think had a big drop there, if I'm remembering that right, too. I mean, if you'd said those guys don't play well, Washington gets hurt, and oh, by the way, the defense gives up 41 points, I'm saying that's a team in trouble.
Oh, no doubt. No doubt. And that's a very fair point with Marvin Harrison getting knocked out. I do think that was a correct call to not call targeting on that. That was a good, clean hit by Javon Bullard. I mean, he came in shoulder first and separated the guy from the ball. That's what you're asked to do as a DB. But the thing about it is, Chris, people don't realize how banged up Georgia is in terms of on the defensive side of the ball. They're without Nolan Smith, who's their unquestioned leader, and then Chaz Chambliss goes down with a knee injury early in that game. That's that was Nolan Smith's replacement. Robert Beal goes down. They're having to play freshmen on the edges, and Michael Williams and Marvin Jones. Jalen Walker, who's an inside linebacker, had to get moved out to play a little bit of outside linebacker in that game. So Georgia was thin on the edges over there. But my goodness, that and when you can't get pressure, it makes the secondary look even worse at times. The secondary was getting burned a little bit for Georgia at different times, but Georgia couldn't get pressure on CJ Stroud for most of the game. until really some of those injuries forced Georgia to do things a little bit differently. Because, Chris, when you got guys that are superior athletically, maybe with some of those freshmen, how they are, but they don't know the defense as well, what can you do? You can tell them to go get the quarterback. And Georgia went and tried to go get the quarterback, and they did get to Stroud a little bit later on there some, but you got to tip your hat to Ohio State. They played their guts out. They played, I think, about as good as they could play. And then Georgia, I'm not so sure that was. I think Georgia, that was like their B- game. I mean, that everything lined up for Georgia to lose that game, but they showed that championship kind of DNA there at the end and ended up pulling it out. And then I know we're going to get to it over here, but TCU's kind of done that all year, Chris, and they did it again with in a Michigan game that was back and forth. And, everybody's counted them out all year. And that looks like it's going to continue, Chris, because this line, as we talk here, on Sunday night, January 1st, Georgia's a 13.5-point favorite in the national championship game. That alone is a staggering feat that I don't think anybody would have thought would have come to fruition at the start of Kirby Smart's tenure.
Yeah, and you mentioned the things that went wrong. I think Podlesny missed a kick or two too, did he not?
And then Stetson Bennett had a turnover. Podlesny, who's normally nails, he like you said, he missed some kicks. He's going to be happy to get out of Mercedes-Benz Stadium. He's missed every kick, I think, over that it wasn't a chip shot in Mercedes-Benz this year. So I think he's looking forward to getting out west and seeing what that turf at SoFi does for him. But it was just an unbelievable weekend of football. This is what, as much debate as there was here on this channel, other channels, other media outlets about who should have got in and things like that. And certainly Alabama rekindled some of that maybe early on in the day when they demolished Kansas State, who beat TCU in their championship game. So there was probably a little bit of rumblings over there from Tide country out of that. But after what TCU did to Michigan and how Ohio State played, Chris, I don't think at the end of the day you could argue against the field that was put in there. I mean, it was a great weekend of college football.
Two things unrelated. Well, actually, I've got more than two. You mentioned Robert Beal. I think Beal went down late in that game, maybe the last minute or two with what looked like a knee. Did he come back?
Yeah, he did. He did come back.
Okay.
So, and Michael Williams came back, but guys just kept going down. It seemed like for Georgia over there, and a lot of times that has to do with tempo and stuff like that. But with people faking injuries and stuff. But this wasn't. I think Georgia literally, they were just gassed at that point, like because they'd been chasing CJ Stroud around all night and to no avail most of the time, and I think they just started to get a little banged up. But yeah, I think that they're going to have pretty much everybody back defensively in that game, except Chaz Chambliss. His looked to be a pretty rough knee injury, so I'm not sure. The question is offensively, do they get Darnell Washington back? He's a huge part of that run game. I think that changed Georgia offensively a lot because, Chris, early on, Georgia was running the ball very successfully against Ohio State, but once Darnell Washington was out, people don't realize he's like having an extra tackle on the field.
Yeah, he's huge.
Yeah, and he's a big key. Jane says here, TCU looks really physical. I don't think they have enough time to prepare against Georgia. Though you got 10 days, really probably 5 or 6 of preparation time, and then you get out there and do all the media stuff. But see the people in here. Got several of you in here in the chat. Go ahead and drop anything. Oh, looky here, Jane. We appreciate you. New member.
Thank you, Jane.
We appreciate it. Joining the tier here. What that is, guys, that he, instead of doing a super chat or something like that, which we welcome super chats as well, but that helps us create all of these videos and put the time and effort in for you guys, because the Just Means More tier, $3.99 a month. You see it right there by the subscribe button. But if you're in here and you hadn't subscribed, hit that subscribe button because that's absolutely free. The tier, $3.99. So we appreciate that, Jane. And if you have that insignia by your name and you're a member, we make sure to prioritize your questions, but drop your super chats as well. We greatly appreciate that. So like you said, we're open to talking whatever you guys want to talk about from this past weekend. But Chris, what did you? I mentioned the field. Alabama absolutely boat raced Kansas State. Did you think coming into the day, oh man, if Michigan blows the doors off TCU, everybody's going to be grumbling from Tuscaloosa saying they should have got in the playoff?
Well, let me go a step further. And this probably will be interpreted as blatant SEC homerism, but I'm not sure I'm wrong. Can you make a case that the best three teams in the country are Georgia, Tennessee, and Alabama?
I mean, the way that Ohio State played, I think Ohio State has an argument to be thrown in there, but you're not far off. I mean,
it's close. It's close.
Tennessee was impressive against Clemson. Joe Milton, Josh Heupel has that machine kind of running over there, and then of course I think Alabama was just supremely motivated with Bryce Young and Will Anderson coming back. I mean, that was just so different than what we see nowadays. We guys more individualism and guys preparing for the draft. So that was a huge deal. But that's where my mind went, Chris. I was like, oh, Alabama has just opened up a can on Kansas State, and if TCU doesn't look good against Michigan, then this is gonna really cause a stink and open some controversy. But not that we'll have to worry about that, because there's going to be 4 or 5 SEC teams in every year. Once it goes to a 12-team format, I firmly believe that. You just won't be able to keep them out. But, at least for one more season, it's an exclusive field of 4. And here's a question for you. Georgia is 1 game away from winning back-to-back national. We appreciate that, Jane. He says, "Yeah, you're right, Jane. Chris. Ohio State over Tennessee, though." Yeah, I agree. Like I said, it could be, that would be my one caveat. But here's the thing: Georgia's on the precipice of winning back-to-back national championships. Will be only the 3rd team in the last 20 years.
Since Alabama did it 12 years ago.
Yeah, Alabama did it 11 and 12. USC did it in 2002 and 3 or 3 and 4. I can't remember which 2-year stretch there under Pete Carroll, and they almost had a three-peat. But it's happened those years. Georgia's on the precipice of doing that. And then if you go look at their 2023 schedule, they play no Alabama, they play no LSU, they have no big their biggest out of conference game is Georgia Tech. And they're returning probably 7-8 guys on defense and adding just untold weapons over there with Dominic Lovett and Ra Thomas in the transfer portal. My goodness, is Georgia on the precipice of becoming a dynasty and maybe the preeminent power in college football?
Well, I mean, look, if Georgia wins back-to-back, to me that is a dynasty, because you throw in some other near misses there. But I want to ask you, I want to return to that topic in just a minute.
Okay.
But I wanted to take a sidebar quickly for something I meant to ask you, because did you watch Noah Ruggles' reaction after he missed the kick? The first thing he did is he bent down and he tapped his holder on the helmet as to say it's okay.
Well, the holder was the one that looked inconsolable. The holder looked like it dejected, like he had done something wrong. But I tried to go back and look at the operation, at the snap and the hold. I didn't see anything crazy there, but you're exactly right. It seemed like Ruggles was trying to pick up his teammate and be like, don't worry about it. Like something happened wrong on the hold.
Okay. There's one thing, and I'll set this up. I made the comment a minute ago, or asked the question, could you make the case that the best 3 teams in the country this year are all SEC teams? I think the more fair way to say it, in my mind, I think you've got a top 6 with those 3 SEC teams: TCU, Michigan, and who am I leaving out?
Ohio State.
Ohio State, of course. To me, it's probably those 6, and then everybody else is down. And frankly, I think, Blayne, you almost get the feeling you could see any of those 6 teams play one another. And given on what Saturday, now I think Georgia's the best of those teams. And so I think Georgia's probably the least susceptible to losing to one of the other ones. But you've seen Georgia have some some near misses, such as the one last night. And I want to ask you, you talked about Georgia becoming a potential dynasty. Maybe, but I want to ask you if maybe we're going in a different direction in a minute, of where you've got more parity at the top in college football, because, Blayne, these games have been awful for years.
Yeah.
You have this 14 playoff, and the games aren't even close. And then last night you get two absolute classics. And I've got a theory, and that's all it is. I may be dead wrong. There may be nothing else to it other than it was a one-off sample size. But I want to ask you something about these games being close and that top tier being closer this year. Before I do that, a quick word to our presenting sponsor of our channel, that is Stakes. That is Stakes. You can get your predictions on the record. You can predict anything in the game for free and see how you measure up against fans and influencers. You can flex your wins, broadcast your takes to our community of sports fans with just a few taps on your phone. You can earn credibility, build your public perceptions track record by winning competitions and earning NFT trophies. For making the perfect call, go to playwithstakes.com/14. Use our invite code Southeastern14 for a double welcome bonus. You can see that on the ticker below. It's a predictions app, not a betting app. It's a lot of fun. Help out the folks who help our channel. Okay, Blayne, this is what I'm getting at with that question, okay? And maybe this makes what Georgia's doing more impressive.
Okay.
You have NIL and you have the transfer portal. That is creating opportunities for teams to jump up. You saw how quickly USC rebuilt and got in the title conversation. You've seen how quickly Tennessee has rebuilt. Tennessee certainly has got one of the more aggressive NIL efforts out there. Is this, and look, I want to be clear, I don't like the mechanics of everything. I think you need some order to the chaos. I think we need some, other guardrails around transfer portal and NIL and those things. But I wondered, like, when all the genies were let out of their respective bottles, and this was unleashed on us a couple of years ago, and it really in stages, because I guess the portal came before the NIL stuff. Is this now creating an atmosphere where you're going to have more competitive balance at the top?
I mean, definitely it'll create the opportunity for people to become contenders much more quickly. I still think, and to your point, yeah, I think that there'll be more competitive playoff games because the gap has narrowed. I do think that there's still an elite tier of 3, maybe 4 programs, those being Georgia, Alabama, Ohio State, and then probably you would have to put Michigan in there. And I do think, and even though TCU beat them, okay, it's a 1-game sample size. I wouldn't put TCU there. I think Tennessee, with what they're doing recruiting wise, is trying to push to get into that tier, and things along those lines. Clemson is trying to get back into that tier. But I think in terms of the top 10, 15, teams that realistically could have a chance of playing for a national championship, yeah, I think it's going to change. I mean, look at this, Chris, in terms of this matchup alone. Georgia, former Georgia Bulldog, Timon Mitchell, has played 14 games for TCU this year, okay, and is one of their more productive defensive linemen, okay?
Played at Georgia.
Yeah, but didn't play at Georgia.
I saw that kid play in high school. He's in our backyard here, yeah.
Yeah, he hardly ever played. This year he's got 19 tackles, 3.5 tackles for loss, and 3 sacks for TCU, and he's a rotating nose tackle for TCU, and didn't play at Georgia. That's what the transfer portal was designed to do. Is allowed to have guys have opportunities. Timon Mitchell has made the most of his. Sonny Dykes has went out and got a bunch of, like, I think it's north of 15, 16, 17 players that they brought in the transfer portal. So they really brought in a lot of guys for, in the offseason for his first year there. And then sometimes, things just fall into your lap. Like they literally were trying to push Max Duggan out the door, make Chandler Morris the starter, and then things just happen to break your way. And he has a year where now he finished second in the Heisman Trophy race to Caleb Williams. So it's and Georgia did the same thing, trying to push out Stetson Bennett. But I do think that there's still some programs.
Which they did once.
Yeah, they did. They did push him out once. Yeah, tried it a second time. He just was too stubborn. And so the thing about it is, there's some programs that are going to still be able to absolutely reload from the high school ranks, but also now you have Georgia and Alabama able to go out and get guys in the transfer portal, like Jahmyr Gibbs this past year, like Jermaine Burton for Alabama, like Georgia going out and getting Ra Thomas and Dominic Lovett. So I think that it's still going to be hard for people to catch the elite of the elite, but I think to your point, it's going to be much easier for people to become in that maybe second to almost 1B tier, if you will, whether it's USC, whether it's Tennessee, whether it's TCU.
I think the way we're going, a 12-team playoff could be fascinating, because this is the one year that you could say, hey, a team that didn't get invited might have won this thing.
Yeah. Jane says states with more money will have the best programs. I think Alabama might fall off. As long as Nick Saban's got breath in his lungs, Jane, sorry about it. They ain't gonna fall off. I'm telling you. Championship game under 45. No, I think
just when you think this is going one direction, I think this is all going to change again in a year or two. I mean, you cannot have the continued chaos that you have of kids leaving and leaving and leaving, and kids opting out for bowl games and hitting the portal and negotiating with one team while playing for another. I think you hear too many of the coaches who are the voices of reason in the room that are too unhappy with it. I mean, and look, in basketball, a lot of people think Jay Wright stepped aside at Villanova just because of all the nonsense and the craziness.
Well,
when you have guys like Jay Wright leaving the game, when you have guys like Nick Saban, and I think Kirby Smart's done this too, saying, hey, look, something's got to give here. No, I know it's the NCAA, and so this is like throw all logic and reason out the door, right? But there's too much money at stake. It's too good of a product. And I think all this, when it settles, will make it a better product. But right now it's chaos. I mean, that's look, I know that's nothing new, but it's hard for me to make predictions, because I think the level of chaos that you have now will not sustain. It will level out somehow. I don't know how that is. I think eventually
it's going to be collectively. It's going to be collectively. Yeah, it's going to be collectively bargained. The players are going to have a union, and it's going to be basically a mini version of the professional leagues, whether it's baseball, whether it's basketball, whether it's football. It's going to be professional sports with some academic incentives is basically what it's going to come down to. That's basically what it's going to be. And I think you're going to see it. You're going to see a reverse in this trend, because I think the NFL and all these they're going to almost get involved in these deals too. And it's going to be, okay, well, we're not going to punish guys for playing. We want to incentivize guys to play in these bowl games and all this kind of stuff. So I think there's going to be money thrown around, all this kind of stuff, whether it's for these regular bowl games, NIL, sharing opportunities out of TV money, all this kind of stuff is going to come into fruition. But, you said throw all logic out. It brought up you brought up my Jack Nicholson line is from As Good as It Gets. So it made me smile there, thinking, he says, how do you write about women so well? He says, I take all logic and accountability and throw it out the door. So that's the same thing.
That was a movie quote, not
that was a movie quote. That was not us, but that is As Good as It Gets by Jack Nicholson over there. So that's basically what you have to do. When you talk about the NCAA. Now, my question to you is, was the move to, I think Charlie Miller is his name, the sitting governor right now for another 4 days of the governor of Massachusetts, was the move to Charlie Miller was bringing a current sitting governor who's going to become the NCAA president? Was it to say, okay, we're going to wave the white flag and we're going to go full into this professionalism deal. And we need somebody who has the legislative chops to be able to navigate that for us.
Well, with as dumb as the NCAA has been, I don't think you can ever rule out happy accident is the answer. But to be serious, I think it has to be, right? I mean, I've heard AD saying we think this is going to end up in the hands of the government one way or the other. You've already seen the Supreme Court, Justice Kavanaugh make an opinion on this, and he's not wrong. I mean, you
Charlie
can't.
Baker, my man. Charlie Baker.
Yeah, I mean, probably.
Yeah. So I think, and Kirk Herbstreit mentioned it last night. He's like, there's going to end up being a ruling body on this. It's going to be, they're going to basically break away and create their own thing, which I think it is going to be. It's going to be collectively bargained, and it's going to be, it's going to be collectively bargained. It's going to be a deal where teams are going to get and players are going to get portions of the billions of dollars that go on with these TV deals and all this kind of stuff. So it's going to change, and I think the market, so to speak, on some of this NIL stuff from inducement out of high school, which it's not meant to be, is going to be leveled out as well. Yeah, Chris, I appreciate that. Charlie Baker is who I meant, not Charlie Miller. So I appreciate that. And Justin,
Charlie Miller, I think, is the editor at Athlons.
Yeah,
maybe he should be the commissioner.
Justin, we appreciate the door dollars over there, for sure. Appreciate that as well. So, but guys, go ahead in the chat, throw in any topics that you want to talk about right now. Coming off this weekend of college football, we got Georgia facing TCU in the college football playoff. Alabama just won big. Tennessee just won big. Kentucky looked terrible, but no worries. Devin Leary is on the way as a rescue there. So it's going to be a interesting offseason that we're going to keep up with football wise. But Chris, go ahead and fill us in a little bit about what's the state of the SEC right now with college basketball and some of these sleeper games that we've had going on during Christmas break.
Yeah, but before we do that, I wanted to address a question or two, and I'll let you sift through these for a minute. But Jane asked a few minutes ago about the over-under at 45. It's soared past that. It's 62.5 last time I checked.
Yeah, it's 62.5, and I think TCU, Max Duggan's legs, Quentin Johnson, who's might be the first receiver taken in the draft this upcoming year. The question is, do they have Kendre Miller back? I know he was hurt and wasn't able to play the rest of that game. He really carries the rock for them as a running back, so that could hurt their offense tremendously. But I think even just having Max Duggan's legs and having Quentin Johnson available, they're going to score their share of points against Georgia. But my question is, I don't know that Michigan couldn't get the run game going the way that they wanted to. I think Georgia will be able to do that.
Injury played a factor in that too, probably. But
I think Georgia will be able to do that even without Darnell Washington, because that 3-3-5 stack that TCU likes to play. Sometimes there's bubbles in there to run the football against, and I think having AD Mitchell back for Georgia, it really helps out Stetson Bennett a lot as well too. So I think Georgia and TCU will both score a good amount of points in that game.
By the way, we will preview Georgia and TCU. Blayne and I will probably do that tonight or in the morning, I guess, and have that up on our channel in the morning. So we will have some more breakdowns of that game. You asked me about basketball. I won't dwell on that long unless our audience would like us to. I have a feeling this is a crowd that wants to talk more football. But since you asked me, I think right now you've got three teams, Tennessee, Alabama, and Arkansas at the top that are elite, maybe national title contending. Arkansas, that's going to depend on injuries. Tennessee's going to have to hit some shots, but it just defends so well. Alabama is, my goodness, that's a very talented team, and it's not, in my opinion, playing anywhere near its ceiling. I'm going to be fascinated to see how Missouri starts. Missouri got its doors blown off by Kansas a few weeks ago and has really just turned around and smacked Illinois and St. Louis, and then just boat race Kentucky the other night in Columbia. And then I'll kind of leave the middle alone, other than to say Texas A&M is with football has been a big disappointment. But I think the other thing I'm watching, Blayne, and it's way too early, I think you could have coaching searches at Kentucky and Vandy this offseason.
Yeah. I mean,
watching both those carefully.
Yeah, and of course talking basketball for people that just joined there. SEC basketball. That was a little SEC basketball update there. So only thing I know, is that Gonzaga, who I'm a big fan of, beat Kentucky and Alabama. So that's the only thing I can.
You always manage to bring that in here,
yeah,
don't you?
I got to throw it in there. I'm a huge Gonzaga basketball fan, and they definitely took. They're the SEC champs this year.
Boy, speaking of Kentucky, we haven't talked about the
the mock bowl. The garbacle for them that was the
Music goodness. Bowl.
They just didn't have any offense. I mean, Destin Wade was playing quarterback, and he
that's a horrible spot to put that kid in.
Yeah, he just, and he showed some athleticism at times, but they didn't have Chris Rodriguez. Of course, that offensive line has been terrible all year. Liam Cohen is not in there, calling plays yet. So don't worry, Wildcat fans. Help is on the way. Devin Leary, Ray Davis, Liam Cohen, your triumphant trio riding into Lexington. That's going to help turn the fortunes around. I'm gonna go ahead and make a little bold prediction way out in advance. Chris, you ready for this?
Let's have it.
I'm gonna say you need to set the over/under on wins for Kentucky next year at 8.5, and I'm leaning towards the over. I think Kentucky.
I don't know that that's really bold. I mean, isn't that about what they've averaged for 5 or 6 years now?
I think, but with Georgia and Tennessee being what they are now, that would mean that Kentucky's probably going to knock off one of those two. And I think that Devin Leary is going to be a stud over there in Lexington, and with Liam Cohen calling plays for him. So I think Kentucky. I'll just say it this way: I think they win 9 or more games next year in the SEC East. So in football, so that's going to be. I think it's going to be a good year for Kentucky in 2023.
I think the best stat from the Music City Bowl is that the defense outscored the offense 14-7.
Yeah, man, Iowa. You go look at Iowa's splits in terms of how many points their defense scored this year versus their offense, and their defense and special teams like nearly caught their offense in points. It seems like. I mean, they really had struggled. So that was 2 horrific offensive football teams with the situation that Kentucky had going on there, guys sitting out. So it'll be interesting to see what's going. Justin said maybe Ray Davis will re-enter the portal after that loss to Iowa. So he said maybe he'll think secondly about where he's gonna go there. Jane said it seemed like Kentucky didn't even try. Hey, there you go.
Best stat from that game, the Iowa defender who returned the first touchdown had more yards off Kentucky passes than any Kentucky player did. I'm not even going to try to pronounce the name, but anyway. Anything in the comments and questions section that we've not hit yet?
I think we've been on top of most of them, guys. If you have any, we've got a Oregon State Beaver fan that has joined us named Connor Johnson. He says Beavers greater than Gators.
I was going to say, if there's an Oregon State fan in here, that's got to be to gloat over the bowl game, which, hey, don't blame them. That was a really good team this year.
Hey, and they get
Jonathan Smith has done a very underrated job.
They get DJ Uiagalelei as a transfer from Clemson over there. So he said thoughts on DJ to Oregon. I think DJ will look much better out of that Clemson system, because I know for a fact I watched Cabe Klubnik in high school, Chris, and I know Cabe Klubnik is a excellent quarterback, and he did not look excellent against Tennessee, because I think that Dabo Swinney has some big adjustments to make on for his offensive style, or it's not going to I know this is SEC channel, but it's not going to be pretty for Clemson going forward. But I think DJU will make a big improvement over there for Oregon State in next year.
Yeah, I mean that was an interesting because I think Hawaii was the team that was rumored for a little bit before he landed at OSU.
Yeah, and that was going to be interesting. He go out to Hawaii. Oh, look at this. LSU exposed Georgia and Ohio State took advantage. Special teams failed them. Okay. They missed one field goal. They got nailed a 48-yarder before that. Georgia also missed 2 field goals on the game as well. So, we'll see. Exposed or what I said all year, Chris, and you can back me up. Did I not say I think LSU has the best receivers in the SEC? Said that all year. And then, of course, we all know how good Ohio State's receivers are. Marvin Harrison Jr. is going to be a bona fide superstar in the NFL. And I don't think Abuka and Fleming will be too bad either. So, it's going to be interesting. But I don't think you can say Georgia lucked into the national championship. I think they've proven themselves over the last, 29, 30 games.
Chris wants to know who we've got winning it. Chris will make our picks in our video, but look, Georgia's a 13.5-point favorite. It's
going to take
kind of hard to bet against the defending national champion with the 13.5-point edge.
Yeah. It's going to be, we'll do a full breakdown on it, here soon, but just subscribe to the channel so you can see all that stuff come out. It's interesting. Kansas O-line. Wait, you had one up there?
Yeah, I was going to answer a question from Justin. We're
battling over the comment right now.
Clicks. We are. That's why we need a producer. Over under on Vanderbilt next year, 4.5. Well, Vandy won 5 this year and has got an easier schedule next year.
Yeah.
So I think that's going to be close. I might go 5, but I mean Vandy's not a brand name, so 4.5 may be closer, but I think that's in the ballpark, don't you?
Yeah, I think there'll be a bowl team next year. I really do. I mean, 6 games. I don't know that. You're looking at Hawaii, Alabama, A&M. I don't think Wake Forest will be what Wake Forest has been with Sam Hartman gone and a lot of the talent that they're losing. They got UNLV, who's one of the worst teams in college football. And, even though they've improved a little bit over time, but I mean, they got some games they can win out there. And then, of course, hey, Clark Lee's proven he can win a couple SEC games now. So we'll see how they go. But I would say 6 wins is probably not out of the realm of possibility for Vandy next year.
Yeah, I don't think the over-under will be set there. I'll read you their schedule in a minute, but there's one thing, and this is semi-SEC related because at one point he was rumored to be going to Florida. But did you see where Coastal Carolina's Grayson McCall took his name out of the portal this afternoon?
Oh, he's not. He's going to return. He's going to return to Coastal.
Yeah, how many years is that for him now?
Shoot, he may just end up saying he's going to enter the NFL draft if he does that, because I don't know why he would go back to Coastal with that, but
said the coach did a good job recruiting him back.
If in fact that is true, then his statement that he has said time and time again that he pisses teal remains true. So that's what he says. He says, I pissed teal.
I'd rather not check that one, but Vandy's schedule next year, okay, out of conference 4 in a row, Hawaii, Alabama, A&M, and then road trips to Wake and UNLV. Got a shot at 4-0 there. Wake, did Wake lose all those seniors?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Wake's losing.
I knew they lost some.
Team. Sam Hartman, of course, is going to Notre Dame, I believe.
Is A.T. Perry gone?
I'm not certain, but I know they lost a lot of talent over there. And that game's at Vanderbilt next year.
No, it's
at Wake Forest. Yeah.
Here's the Vandy game we need to do a live stream on. Blayne, tell me if you're in for this.
Alabama A&M.
Saturday, September 16th, Vanderbilt at UNLV.
Yeah, let's go to Vegas. Let's go see.
Let's do it.
Let's go see what's his name? Odom and the
Petrino, Bobby Petrino took the OC
Odom
job.
and Petrino. Could be interesting.
So And then the schedule, the home games they've got in the SEC, they've got Kentucky, Missouri, Georgia, and Auburn.
Yeah,
So, I mean, look, Vandy could get to 4.
I think they could get to
maybe
4 early.
5, maybe 5 by the end of September. That's probably optimistic. I mean, look, but I think saying winning 3 of the 4 or 4 of the 4 out of conference, and then maybe getting either one against Kentucky or Missouri at home, that not unreasonable, I don't think.
So so Suzanne Baked sends us a $4.20 super chat, which is hilarious. And then 2 early 2023 Heisman lists is KJ on the list, KJ Jefferson.
Why not?
Well, I
I
mean,
thought he is one of the more underappreciated players in the league for 2 years running now. He's very efficient. He doesn't turn the ball over that often, runs it. Yeah, I mean, I think you want to see what the surrounding cast is, but if Arkansas can, I think it's going to be hard unless they're in that national title picture, and I don't know they're going to be there, but I think he's a tremendous quarterback, and that'll be his 3rd year starting in this league.
yeah, if he's just got to he's got to improve downfield accuracy is what he's got to improve to be just more consistent. two or three not good as one $5 super chat. What's more fake, Ohio State or Ryan Day's beard color? Let me tell you something. Ryan Day is keeping Just for Men. I'm surprised he doesn't have his own like coaching NIL deal with Just for Men, because that is a black beard now. It is a black beard. Justin, he is volunteering his services.
How old is Ryan Day? He's 43. That's not. I'm going to call improbable, but I'm not going to call impossible.
He does not want to show one gray hair in that black beard. I'm telling you.
I have a brother who's 50, and people swear he dyes his hair, and he swears he does not. And it's about the color of Ryan Day's beard.
Man, well, Ryan Day, he's either blessed with some very dark follicles there, or he is definitely dyeing that beard. Justin has volunteered his services. Not only does he want to be a member, as you see with his little logo there, but he's volunteering his services to be the live stream producer. So who knows?
Justin, we might have to take you up on that.
Yeah, we may take you up on that. This guy is really Edward O. Nussbus.
Edward, I don't think is a Georgia fan. I'm just going to go out on a limb here.
He is a Georgia hater, I believe, and he's going out there saying that Max Duggan's going to have a field day. Listen, Max Duggan's had a field day on everybody, so it wouldn't surprise me.
Michigan's defense was elite for this day and age, and he ripped them to shreds. Now, I do want to ask you, what do you make of Georgia getting shredded like that, especially with Harrison out? Was that just a thing? I mean, the Keely Ringo issue popped up again, as it's done from time to time. I mean, this is not Georgia's last year's defense. Of course, I don't know that there's ever been one like that, so that's not exactly a fair statement to make. But, I mean, I think we thought Georgia would perform better on that end than it did. I think that's fair to say.
Yeah, I think what you've seen is that I think it's been masked a lot because Georgia's been so good up front and just been physically more dominant in the line of scrimmage over the last 29, the majority of their last 29, 30 games up front. But when you aren't more dominant and you get a quarterback that gets some time, Georgia's secondary is not great cover guys right now. They're just not. And, that's what hurt them.
Ray Finkel's name has made its way onto the show. That took longer than I thought.
Lace is out, Dan. Lace is out.
Hey, where would you like to go next?
Well, a member here, Jane, has asked a question. So I'm going to, do y'all think Ohio State would have beaten TCU that game?
I want you to hit the pause on your answer.
Okay.
And give that some thought. And I'll tell you why. We need to give a little run to our other sponsor, BROTHROW. Love these guys. If you don't like betting $11 to win 10, you're going to love BROTHROW. You can bet in all 50 states. It's not the house, so bettors have a fair chance at winning. It's the only sports platform that doesn't take a cut of every bet. You don't have to make deposits into a BROTHROW account. No deposits, no minimum bets. No need to connect your bank account. Bettors pay each other directly. It's a hassle-free process that lets you get in on the action in seconds. Go to brothrow.com/SE14. And once you get there, join our group. It's Southeastern 14. It's small, but it's growing. One of you took money from me last night on Georgia. So congratulations there.
Justin
But
said he
anyway.
signed up this past week with the link.
Yes,
so.
I noticed Justin. Love that place. I'm not a sports bettor, but I've put a couple down just because I think it's, you bet $10, that's all you lose.
Edward O, Nuss Bus driver. Hey, join our BROTHROW link in there, man. I'll go head to head with you on this national championship game because I feel like I know which way you're going.
The challenge has been laid. Edward O, you've got to get in BROTHROW and take my man Blayne up on this.
Yeah, Edward. So Edward O, you get in there in BROTHROW. We'll go head to head on this national championship game. Ramajama Yella Hammer says Petrino is gonna love riding up and down the Vegas Strip on his Harley. There is no doubt that there will be.
Do you know how I saw riding the Vegas Strip on his Harley last time I was there?
Do not.
Mike Tyson.
You will have.
I swear it had to be him.
Here's what's going to happen. You're going to have Bobby Petrino riding on a motorcycle, Mike Tyson on the back of that motorcycle, and they're going to have a live tiger in the sidecar of that motorcycle. It is going to be glorious. Edward O asked a question. Is the link in the description there, Chris?
It should be.
Yeah, I think the link is in the description over there.
I don't think you can click on the link, but you can type in that link. And by the way, they don't have an app, so you've got to do this on a browser. But it is really easy. You can get in our. I mean, you don't have to be in our group to do it, but we would like to build that and have some fun and needle each other when we win or lose, and all the things that going with having fun around football, which is what we're here to do. If you're new to the channel, we don't take ourselves too seriously, or try not to. So
no, not at all.
We do work hard at it. We do watch a lot of it. We're not perfect, but we're here to have some fun with it. So
yeah, here's the thing that I do think early on, just kind of looking at the numbers and some of the stuff that has gone on with TCU throughout the year defensively. They've had some games, whether it's Kansas State, whether it's Baylor, Kansas earlier in the year, even Texas Tech, Chris, where they've been gashed by people running the football. Michigan, 186 yards. And, it's not like Michigan.
Without its top.
Yeah, without its top guy. So I think that Georgia rushing attack is going to be a much bigger factor in this game than it was in the first semifinal. I think Georgia's kind of adjusting on the fly a little bit with Darnell Washington being out, and he's a big part of the game plan and all that kind of stuff. So that's my first little key that I'm dropping there. I think Georgia's run game is going to be a big involvement here. And what better way? I agree with Edward O. I think Max Duggan is great. And I think Max Duggan in that TCU offense is dangerous, but how do you neutralize that? You keep them off the field, run the football.
I thought McIntosh and Milton both ran well at times last night. I mean, they didn't put up numbers, but it seemed like they would pop a nice one when it was needed. I mean, those two kids are.
Well, here's the thing. If
really
once the turnover happened, it was 14-7. When Georgia got down 7-0, they were able to run the football, gash them, get big plays by running the football, even when it was 14-7. But then the turnover, when you get down multiple scores, that kind of takes away your run game a little bit because you're having to try to catch up, right? And you're having to get back in the game through the air. So Georgia kind of abandoned the run a little bit. It's not that they weren't running the ball successfully against Ohio State. I thought they ran the ball really well against Ohio State. It's just the game dictated otherwise.
Blayne, do you know the answer to this one?
Eric Gilbert, Arik Gilbert.
That's who I thought he meant.
Yeah. Has there been
What
any?
happened to him? He's just disappeared.
The major.
Yeah,
All I'm at
I
liberty
think
to
I know
say
where
is
you're going.
is major personal
Yeah.
health problems, mental health problems, and Georgia has tried every avenue possible to help the young man, and it really went over above and beyond what a lot of programs would do, in my opinion. But wish him all the best going forward, and hopefully he'll find a place that's good for him both as a person and a football player.
What else have we got, Ted? I'm presuming you've got a hard out here in about 5 minutes.
Yeah, I'm gonna be heading out in just a minute. For those of you who don't know, I got a 1-month-old that I got to go ahead and get in bed so I can wake up with him. Me and the wife.
Do you have part of the night feeding schedule, or did you get a pass out on that?
No, we kind of, because there's a lot of preparation, physical preparation, if you will, that goes into it on her part to feed that baby. So she's kind of doing. We wake up at the same time. She goes and does that. I feed him. We kind of, get it all going there. But so I've been right there in the foxhole, Chris. I've been shirking any responsibilities. So I'm waking up and going out there. But Jane says
I've had the 2:30 shift on child feedings before, and that's not a lot of fun.
2:30. Yeah, that's it.
Mm.
Jane, a member here. Remember, if you see that logo, you can be a member, guys. We've already had Jane sign up, and you can sign up too. $3.99 a month. You be a member, you get all your questions. We'll make sure to throw them up there. And of course, super chats are welcome as well. Do you think they give up a lot of rushing yards because of the defense they run? I guess talking about TCU, which is protect against the pass. Listen, when you're playing a stacked defense like that, what you're trying to do is you're trying to create people talk about explosive plays offensively, but when you play a 3-3 stack or a 3-3-5, as people like to call it, you're trying to create explosive plays defensively, tackles for a loss, sacks, that kind of stuff. And what you do is you really use a lot of twists and stunts in that type of deal. Bring blitzes from different places than people usually see, and you're trying to make those combo blocks harder to get up to linebackers. But I think Georgia's going to be able to create. One thing you can do against the 3-3-5 is create angles, and Georgia's a very good gap run scheme team. So I think that's part of why they'll have big rush yards. But yeah, a lot of times you got single high as well. And when you got the receivers that Georgia has out wide, I think it's going to be an interesting matchup, just how much TCU is able to stay true in their stack, or are they going to have to change that look a little bit? Because obviously Michigan found some answers to it offensively. They just couldn't stop TCU on defense.
Well, the other thing too is you play in the Big 12, and those teams just sling it left and right.
No doubt. No doubt. It seemed like TCU's defense was playing back to what Jane said. Yeah, I mean, bend but not break is kind of the game of – it's the nature of college football now. You go look at Georgia. Georgia has given up yards throughout the year to certain teams, but when they get in the red zone, they typically stop those drives. They stop them out. I mean, look at last night at the end. So –
sorry, it's not you. I'm reading the comments, and you'll see
Jesus
the one that
Pinto says TCU's going to win 49-28. That would be
the one above that.
Nipple dude. You can milk anything with nipples, Falker. Yeah, that's great. That's great, Justin.
Oh, I feel the incoming.
That's it. That's it. Well, anything we need to throw out there administratively before we end the chat here, Chris?
No, we'll have, depending on when you can do it, we'll have the expanded preview for Georgia TCU up. Blake and I will do basketball power rankings in the morning. We've got previews coming for every SEC basketball game. We've got, I think 4 on Tuesday and 3 on Wednesday. I think we'll preview each one of those individually. If you're new to our channel, we cover baseball, football, and basketball heavily. We take football very seriously. That's the main sport, but we cover basketball and baseball at least as well as we do football. Blayne is kind of our preeminent football guy. Blake is our probably the guy. Well, not probably the guy in this group that knows more about basketball than any of us, and I would be the guy that knows more baseball. But we all we all dabble in the others too, to say the least. So
Justin asked before, Justin Tiberville, before we get out of here, he asked, how do you think Max Duggan will do? I think Max Duggan will do what he's done all year. I think he'll produce mightily. I think he'll play very well. But at the end, I think, and we'll get into our preview, but at the end, like I said, Chris said, I think there's a reason Georgia's a 13.5 point favorite from Vegas. Vegas didn't try to lose money. As you saw last night, that line, Chris, I thought it was fascinating that line with Georgia and Ohio State was coming down rapidly.
yeah,
I think
it came down a full point on game day.
Well, some places it got down to 3.5 points right before the game. You could get it down that low. So, oh Lord, Justin Hollins asked thoughts on the Braves free agent signings. Chris is going to have to do a separate video.
Who have they signed? I mean, I guess they got the kid from Detroit.
They traded
for the catcher. It was the relief pitcher from Detroit. I can't remember if that was a trade or if that was a signing.
I honestly don't know. I hadn't followed it. I've been all college football mode right now. I just know Dansby's gone and Chris is heartbreaking. So
this is a true story. We were taking a road trip through Kansas for Christmas, and the $1,800 car repair for a water pump breaking and some other things was not nearly as upsetting as seeing my Braves lose Dansby Swanson. But anyway,
absolutely no one is what Justin.
My priorities might be out of order, but they are what they are.
Absolutely. Well, Chris, if that's all we got, we need to remind people to make sure to check out the BROTHROW link in there. I know that Edward O and I are going to go head to head on a national championship bet there. You can go head to head with us. So use the link. Go ahead and join the membership, as you see other guys have done in here so far, even on this stream. It's right beside the subscribe button. Also subscribe because that is free, and hit the like button. But Chris, if you don't have anything else, man, I think we're going to leave off there and then hit our preview later in the week.
Yeah, final things. Again, a ton of basketball content coming up in the morning. Our preview will be coming up on this one within the next day or two. Get in, visit our sponsors, BROTHROW and Stakes. Stakes, again, no cost to join. We'll be a little more active in putting predictions on there now that we're not doing holiday travel and such, and covering the craziness that comes with the portal and bowl season and all that. And then again, BROTHROW, get in there. And when you get in, not just using that promo code of SE14, but join our group so we can have some fun in there and trash talk and whatever. Any more parting thoughts from you, Blayne?
That's it. I hope everybody's had a happy start to 2023, and we'll be putting a bunch of content out this year for you. So we hope you'll join our community here.
Yeah, God bless you all. Happy New Year. Thanks for watching Southeastern 14 presented by Stakes. Again, be sure to watch for content coming in the morning. We'll have some more live streams. I don't know when those will be, but we'll figure it out. I think New Year, we're all resetting the schedules, and I think we're going to try to live stream more than we did last year, especially we're talking about doing it 2 or 3 times a week during basketball seasons, and maybe more than that. Anyway, thank you for watching Southeastern 14 presented by Stakes. Again, God bless you all. Have a happy New Year. We'll see you again.